Yes, it is. It's episode 6. It's 6 times the times we're having fun here. My friends, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I hope that you're doing well, and I hope that wherever you are is doing good for you, my friends. Have I got exciting news, man? Fun times have been happening from this. I need a couple questions to be answered for those of you who are watching, whether it is here on the YouTubey Smacky or on the Facebook feed. I need to know, do you like it like this, or would you rather the other way, so that when I put it on YouTube, it's not like this, it's a full view? You, please, the audience, allow me to know what's the most happy in the viewing pleasure of your thing. Other than that, my friends, today I am bringing to you a new energy, a new vibe, a new thing, something completely out of the norm of anything I've talked about so far. I'm bringing on a friend of mine, and her name is Brandi Dye, D-Y-E, and let me tell you, a prophetic soul, a woman who is on a journey of really finding herself, and not only doing that, but helping others do the same. I'm going to try and bring her on now, and as soon as we do, I'll let her do her little and all that good stuff. For those of you watching, thank you so much for joining here with me on what we're calling, I guess, On the Other Side. You can find all this information on my YouTube. It's Paul David Carpenter. This and much of the other crazy things I've done in my life. But if you'd like, Paul David Carpenter is where you can find the content. Here, slowly, I believe, we should be getting... Oh, there she is. She's coming in. Do-do-do-do-do. Scoopity-poopity-pop. Is it happening? Wham! We got her. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, a huge round of applause from wherever you're sitting. Toot, 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 toot. Hi, Brandi. How are you doing? I didn't get into at all how long we've known each other, how we've talked about all kinds of crazy stuff, from this, that, and the other, from tarot readings to me trying to jump in your life. So let me preface all of this really quickly before I go any further. I have, throughout my life, when I find something or someone interesting, I reach out to talk to them. And in some way, shape, or form, I'm like, oh, listen, I was thinking, or I was seeing, or I heard of, and maybe you should try and do something like this, because I see that maybe, and I'm not picking or pointing fingers or being, rude. Maybe you're wanting to do this, but you don't know, like, the steps that it might take. And so, hey, let me try and jump into your life and throw a million things at you in a conversation that's going to be about an hour long, and you're not going to remember anything I tell you. And then we're going to have to recap over and over again. And once again, as I said a couple episodes ago, I always have these really fun, interesting conversations with my friends. And then somewhere along the way, someone goes in the middle of the convo or towards the end of the convo, fuck, I wish we would have recorded this because, God, it was so good, And it's like, ooh.
That's the funny thing that you say that, because when I first met you, I actually had to record you because I'd never saw a man fucking twist a fork with his mind before. So that was mind-blowing, spoon bending, fork twisting. Like, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's like so fucking awesome. I have to know him. So I think the feeling was definitely mutual. And it just cracks me up because I love your magic. I still have those cards on my family portrait board, like the 5 of Swords, the 3 of Cups,
Still doing it. Still doing
3 of Hearts. See, there it is. Do it. Check this out, guys. It's so fun. Oh my God, he really just made that fort. Oh my God, he broke the fort.
Anyway, so it's magic. You know, we can get into that conversation. Oh, actually, what a great lead-in to magic and magic, right? So magic with a C and this magic with a K, that many people truly don't understand. Even the idea of spell casting or what a spell is, people don't know, like the etymology, if you will, of those things, or even what spelling really means. And I talked about very briefly on another podcast that's going to be coming out pretty soon. And this is so far 6 hours that I've spoken with this guy, and we're doing another episode today. And
you better tag me in some links because I want to watch.
I mean, no, yeah, and I will when I can. I will totally. Oh, someone's coming in. Yeah, this is.
Grand Rising.
Hello, welcome. So I totally lost my train of thought of what I was trying to. Oh, so yeah, I was talking about this on this other podcast, and yeah, as soon as it comes out, I'll definitely bring it up, and I'll of course I'll pop it out, and it's. I mean, when I say absolutely ridiculously, oh my, to the deepness and depthness of where it is, it starts at stoned ape theory, Terence McKenna, ends up with transhumanism and a eugenics, and the people. I mean, and it's in all on the crazy part of this. I made a Google document about it once.
So are you guys going to be talking about giants and like hybrid theory and all that kind of shit? Because I'm diving into Gene Keys like so deeply right now. It's not even funny.
Where I went with it with him was so crazy and so deep. So I'll try and kind of really quickly, because I really want to get into the conversation of magic and magic. I really want you to talk about the idea of what spells are and spell casting and all of these ideas, because a lot of these ideas that we're about to talk about are going to be a lot of things that are going to be kind of these two things. And one of the stories I'm telling kind of comes here based on that whole, and I'll preface it really quickly, what you think is what you create, no matter what you think of. If you think bad things, bad things. If you think good things, good things. So on and so forth.
If there is nothing I love talking about more, it's the language of alchemy. So
right, and then Jordan Max. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you. Jordan Maxwell is one of the big guys that I want to talk about as well. I don't know if you know who Jordan Maxwell is. If you don't know, if you're there at home or if you have a computer,
not familiar yet, but I'd love to get connected.
So please Google, like, while you're, if anything, get a notepad and start writing down all these things, because this is what was so great about this last interview that I did. I know the information almost in a very kind of like Alex Jonesian kind of like, you know, the water's turning, the frog's gay.
Sometimes I worry about him because he'll get so deep in a message, you wonder if he's going to have a fucking heart attack right in the middle of it. And I'm like, come on, dude, just breathe. I know you got to truth it, but just breathe, man. It's going to be okay.
So, okay. So the deepness of this conversation that I was talking about was, and I'm trying to nutshell it really quickly, but something to the effect of, we live within this kind of universe that can't explain. So let's call it the fishbowl inside of fish inside of a fishbowl theory. I can't understand it, so I don't know. I can't explain it if I'm living in it. Even if I try to, no matter how much I try, it's going to be really hard to explain.
Right.
And yet, at the same time, um, oh man, I'm totally losing my train of thought because I'm getting so excited.
Just breathe.
Yeah, just remind me where we were a second ago, please.
Okay, so we were talking about how
And
the magical school of thought coming into like the archetypal realm of multiverse is kind of what you're really getting at there. It's like we're all dealing with multiple, like so many different realities all at one time.
And the idea of we're on a spinning green rock and this thing, a fungus, it comes from Gaia, which creates this thing that somehow becomes sentient and thinks that it's thinking, and then goes out of its way to create something over time that is starting to think that it's thinking, and we're weirded out by the thing that we created, let alone what about the thing that created us that's going, what do we do? And are we not about to create a whole entire race of robots that are stronger than? And then wouldn't that on some level start to recreate the Emerald Tablets Anunnaki storyline on some weird level, call it a technological level version of the thing that we were just aliens that came upon, that are a virus, that are only sucking up gold, that are then using these then robots that they've created that are in the image of themselves?
I think that is a lot of, honestly, I really feel like a lot of that is honest to God fantasy and idealism. And some of it may be taken from like internal DNA, genetic, like evolution trauma, from the evolution of Earth. Of course, we're all now at this point in time, we're multicellular organisms at one point in time, and the way I can describe it is that like in the beginning, whenever the cataclysm happened and Earth and the moon actually collided with each other, there was actually only a singular cellular structure to the consciousness that was here. So it was once a singular module. Now, when these two planets actually collided some billions of years ago, it actually created a spark, kind of like how we get the concept of how in the darkness of dark energy or dark matter, but in the beginning it was darkness, right? And then all of a sudden there was a sound, and then boom, you had light, and it was like a catastrophic explosion.
Right, Brandon, give me a second, because you might be blowing people's minds with way too much information so quickly. And for those of you out there who would like to have this connected to some kind of science that she's explaining, yeah, we all understand that the moment after this Big Bang, there's even a moment prior to the Big Bang that is called the unexplained moment. And then after that, there's this Big Bang, and then there's this goo, if you will, that is so hot and so expansive at the same time that it cannot coalesce because it's not cold enough, and it had to reach certain temperatures before those things that were out there could even start to attach, i.e. even just electrons and neutrons that were out there that were so spread apart. And then it is what she's saying. I just wanted to get
In one sense, that's nuclear fission or fusion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let her talk woo, and then I'll try to put it together.
Right. I can blow your mind. I mean, that is part of what my particular divine channel does is I simplify things because we could like go woo, woo, woo with all the different thoughts of an ideal or an idealism. But the best thing that I was always taught is the divine masculine method of keep it simple, stupid, you know? So we call that the KISS method. So if we could just, that is what I'm set up to do via language, communication. I can help break it down so that you're not like lost in the microcosms of shit in your thoughts, your brain, information that comes in.
Mhm.
That is what the mind does. There's the prana of all things, which are life force, energy, God particle, whatever you want to call it. And then there is the miasma of illusions wrapped in all things. So the paradox of life in itself and the codon ring of illusions. So we all function on the tree of life in the Kabbalistic way. So what we're going to come to understand in New Age times is that we have a system, the Kabbalic system of the spheres, the Sephiroth, the paths, all of that goes into the Torah, the royal path. But in the breakdown of all things, the only thing that really we need to stick to are the cosmic laws. Like, if you know how those function, you know how the universe functions. And if you know how the universe functions, you really can be like Thoth and stay on the spiral path and merging the Merkaba together. So I think we can get lost in real spiritual dogma, historical facts, like people bringing up the Atlantean wars, all of that shit. You know, the things that we could get lost in our fantasy. The only thing that I can understand is that George Lucas didn't get it wrong when he depicted us as Jedi, enabling us to use the Force within all things. I think what we're here to do right now is to actually start a rebellion, because in the past we're trying to like clear out old timelines, templates. Going into timelines, you're looking back in history, you're seeing where we've always had the ability or the need to want to kill, to go to war. We have this vanity thing we've been trying to work out within our consciousness for thousands of years. We could all tie that in back to the origins of like how we were created, evolved through Darwin's theory, Enoch, the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, any story that cultural history wants to tell us.
And on.
But I think that this was actually a natural evolution that just began to take place, like as in when one realm of species has lived and existed, they eventually found a way to evolve.
Right.
Period. And that's
so I have a couple things. I want to stop you, Brandi, because I know that you're gonna. I know you're gonna just keep going and going, and I want you to. But there's things that you've said, and I want to clarify for those that are out there. You know, because you're throwing out. You and I have, I believe, a much deeper understanding than probably 99 or a good 80% of the people that are out there. And I believe that's because we have taken the time to read from a lot of texts. And so you throw out like something like, you say pranic energy. When you do that, you're not expressing that pranic energy is not the same as the Zoharian Kabbalistic thing. Because they're different, right? There's many times when I've spoken with like real hardcore, and I mean I'm talking like sick 90-year-old Kabbalists, right? I'm having to translate because they don't even speak English, right? I have to have my rabbi who was he had to ask him if I could even show up, and then that guy had to pray about it first and then say yes, it's a lot. I went to sense his soul to allow him to come to visit, to come see me pray. Like, I was like, what does that mean? I'm just watching you pray, bro. I don't even know what you're doing. But the experience was absolutely mind-blowing. I'll get into it in a minute, but the short of it is that while he was praying, and this is seen by not just me, okay, but like, I'll see if I can remember. It was 12 people, one extra, which was his wife, and then the 11th person, which is him, and then the 10 of us that were there. This is not inside of a synagogue. This is at this man's house. This man is sitting at his table, at the end of his table. The kitchen's on this end. He's over here. I'm standing there. Right, direct eye contact of him. Like, you know, off to the of him, but I can directly at him. And I swear on my life, and I've even asked the guy who took me, he's still a good friend of mine, his name's Yom Tov Glazer. I wish and pray that one day he will do this show with me. But, oh my God, a ball of plasma, blue, small, not like, nothing crazy, not some kind of, are you okay? No weird, stupid, right? But a literal ball about that big, little tiny, right?
This is a mustard seed almost.
Materializes from the center of his third eye while he's praying, and it glides. It didn't really fly. It was like, it literally went like, and into the chandelier that was standing at the, standing right in front of the table that everybody was sitting around. I immediately just go, what? And my rabbi, without missing a beat, he just goes, not one bit of it, nothing. He just goes,
it's good. God said it's good. Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to segue again, and I'm going to try and bring us back because I want this to go somewhere so that people at home can not only start to understand some things, but B, can also understand you a bit more and what you do and what you've attempted to do up to this point, what your new projects are going to be and what you're attempting to be doing in the future, all of those things. So with that, magic and magic. The magic that I have always done in my life is a form of call it manipulation for the sense of entertainment. The magic that I believe that you are into is one of attempting to connect to this earthly realm that you're in and in some way understand it both on its properties, on its deeper root usages, and in this, in many people's worldview of today, with quote unquote drugs, prescription drugs in particular, they would call what you're doing absolute crazy, and you're some kind of let's burn the witch. We're back to the Salem days kind of stuff, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I've said this many times in many of my shows, fanaticism is anywhere. You can find fanaticism anywhere. And that's just like, and I said it the other day, I call fanaticism a glossy coat that doesn't do much. It's glossy, and it makes that thing look really vibrant, but it's super thin. That's what I call fanaticism. And why do I say that? It's because when you find anyone who's like a full-on, let's say, religious fanatic, when you go to the why he's saying a certain thing about, like, oh, it's okay to kill the certain kind of people, and then you break that down to what line he got it from, you find out that that's not what it meant. And it's many times we get overwhelmed in the outside of what other people tell us, this program that is in front of us, of what we are supposed to be or what we're not supposed to be. I think that the magic with a K has, as of recently, become much more open, but also at the same time very much abused by the media, as you will, and has been thrown out there as like Satanism or a demon kind of thing if you use sage, or and it's so crazy to me, because what is the priest holding within his own thing but frankincense and these same things that these people who are stuck within a resounding chamber of non-understanding, because they are only reiterating instead of going out like you and I have, as I was saying a moment ago, learning. And so what I'm trying to do is preface this with it. When you start flaring off here in a moment, which I'm going to let go and I'm going to let you go, and you can talk about magic and what it means to you and how you use it. In my description, I said that you use metaphysics and the natural earth, i.e., fire, wind, earth, and water, to help people find their own clarity within themselves. I'm sure you use gemstones and everything else that's out there, but I want you to get into that. So that was it for me. Please express yourself, but when you do, if you don't mind, wherever you're saying certain things, just kind of give me a side note. Oh, the reason I'm talking about Hoth is because in Egypt that connects this to this to this, so that the people who are watching can be like, oh, and then they can maybe write it down and go find their own research and see that you are right when you're saying the information that you're talking about. That's all. Okay. I was trying to preface with.
I'll try to do what I can to give you the references as I go.
I love you.
Yeah, like I said, I do try to keep it simple, but when we're talking about subjects that we've made so entirely complex and taken it out of its context for so long, this is why it gets so confusing to a lot of people, because what we've been doing here in the last 4, 5, 10 years is undoing all of that programming, that learning that we've learned, because it was not right. It was not in alignment, For one, the word magic, if you actually look it up in the dictionary, it actually means belief. So that's another area in the human language where we've also got many pseudonyms for one word or one meaning or the totality of things. So I'm going to tie that in with what we are still lacking to understand about symbolism in itself, because the ancients they did not use language. They used symbols like the spiral. It's one of the most ancient symbols. It's found at Göbekli Tepe. That's known to be one of the eldest human civilization sites on the planet, along with others. We talk about Egypt all the time. We talk about Samaria. Samaria was ancient Iraq. Back then it would have been called the Fertile Crescent, or the empty space in the Sahara Desert. It was once called the empty space, not the Sahara Desert. So there's lots of things that we've taken away from the original meaning, because in ancient times they did not have writing systems. They would tell stories via oral tradition, and those stories would have been passed down from generations to shared with other cultural embodiments. Okay, so we go back to the word magic. It means belief system. The reason why some of us have begun to actually spell the word magic with the K at the end is literally because of the distortions and the inversions that have in past times, over the past several thousands of years or hundreds of years, the inverted indoctrinations that came of the word magic. Because at this point, earlier 1100s AD, people were being burnt at the stake for being heretics, for going against the Roman Catholic Church. Even if you were a Hebrew, you would have been considered a heretic to the Romans. At some point, they became the biggest hypocrites and the biggest domineering entity on the face of this planet. So what has inevitably happened, taken the word magic used by the Druids, if you want to call it that. I don't even think they even used that word.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, if you look at the etymology of abracadabra, it actually comes from Hebrew, and it stands for adabra-kadabra, which means what I speak is what I create. And
Exactly.
it's like,
so that's
you know,
actually the truest form of what the spoken word means. So when you activate the larynx to speak, you're speaking with your divine voice. Now, whether that comes out to you or to me as a distortion, an illusion, or a truth, it matters not.
right.
All that matters is that it's going from the ethers and coming from that divine place within you, and the throat chakra is the gateway to release that divine voice that you and the universe share with each other. So in there lies in the belief of the power, the magic, or all of the pseudonyms that you would want to associate to just that act of being in existence. Abracadabra.
And then that also brings in the word that we were talking about when we were saying spell and spell casting. And now we can talk about communion with groups of people and then saying the same words together. And
a prayer is a spell. If you know, well, a lot of people don't understand where the Book of Psalms came from, but there's actually the greater keys of Solomon, the lesser keys of Solomon, but the Book of Psalms is actually not where it's supposed to be. The Book of Psalms actually goes hand in hand with the greater and the lesser keys of Solomon, because all of the songs that are supposed to activate the magic of the sigils within are sung in activation, like ah. That harmonics activates the power of the sigil and makes the seventh sun pentacle, like the seventh pentacle of the sun.
That makes so much sense when you have so many, like, you know, Buddhist monks that are all saying Om, or you know, you also have you know, all the different types of prayers, like what's Nam Myo Renge Kyo, Nam Myo Renge Kyo, Nam Myo, you know, and so you know, so those kind of things, or even you know, I only bring up Judaism because that's what I've studied the deepest. I went to Israel, I spent a year really deeply in there, and there was this one course that we were talking about, what's called the Shema. And the Shema is a prayer that is Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, right? So Adonai and Eloheinu are both the name of God. Now, both
those are the names of our celestial host.
All right, so there's 216 different names of God, and many people are like, "What do you mean? Why are there 216 names of God?" Now,
Why
from
do you have so many names? Why have you been reincarnated 1,000 times?
yeah. Well, it's more from my very tertiary, understanding of this stuff is that the reason that there's so many different names of God is because each one represents a feeble understanding of that awe, call it, because God is all, the embodiment of all of you can't take it, you can't understand it, but at the same time you're completely engulfed by it. So you can't really know what that is, right? And so you could say, well, God's not a tree, and God's not a brick, and God's not this, and God's not that. But you can't say God is my finger, or a cup, or the embodiment of a human being. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody who is religious in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, in essence, there is no way for that to happen if we're talking about the thing. Now, could that thing, in its own amazingness of itself, because I love to play devil advocate about my own words, could it, of course, in its own awesomeness, just go and put itself in the game that it created just so it could live through the game? Sure, why not? And let's go even further. If that thing is going to go ahead and place itself in the game, it would be so knowledgeable about the game, right, that it would be able to do magical things, bringing it back, and it would not play the game of the man creating castles in the sand.
I love that etymology. Every time that pops up in my memories, I have to share it because that's the best thing you've ever written.
Oh, I love you. I'll share it really quickly because I'm for those who haven't
You
heard
need
it.
to share that again because it's amazing. The conceptual imagery, it just really hits your heart space. And I think that that's what human beings are built to do. We're built for disaster and chaos, but at the same time, it's the exact disaster and chaos that opens our hearts so deeply. And I think that's why we need the cataclysms of the magic that goes between both realms of dark and light, so to speak. There is no good or evil.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no wrong or right, period.
I said this yesterday. It's like it either works or it just doesn't work. And time will let you know which one is the right one. Now, for those of you out there who are like afraid or scared or worried or have pain or strife, I need to let you know right now, this has already been played out. The people on the side that have intention of love, positivity, goodness, share, love, give, grow, already won. So whatever's going on in your life, and I don't mean to be mean or angry when I say this next statement, but it's this. If you have allowed pain, strife, drama, or trauma in your life, then you have let go of the idea of God. And what I mean by that is this. You're living in something that is absolutely perfect, exactly the way it is. Even if there's a guy with an 18-ton bulldozer 2 blocks away from me, breaking up the land and creating destruction and taking down trees, and the birds are dying and the ecosystem's falling apart. And yes, you have an option to be involved. Yes. But at the same time, there is obviously a movement of the ball that you cannot stop. And so I'm not saying, oh, dude, ride the Cali Yuga, man. And for those who don't, and for those who don't understand, and for those who don't understand that phrase, Kali is the goddess of death, and the idea is that since you can't stop this rolling ball of death, that you should just jump on a surfboard and just ride it out and be just as crazy as the other people on the planet. And it's like, I don't care, you know, but that's not the ticket, by the way. That is definitely not the ticket. It's a test to those who have had many souls before. It is a test for those who have never had a soul before. It is a test for those who have been here too many times that they can't count anymore, and they are wickedly connected because they know the tips and tricks in their own DNA. And am I
saying right there is to know the tips and tricks of your own DNA, and that's exactly what I do. It's called blood magic.
Right. And now, the thing where I'm trying to get at when I say these things, like people like may not understand or don't believe. Please go look this up. There are genetic markers of what have been understood as of recently as memories, like of like past families. And I'm not just talking about like we're talking about intelligence levels. We're talking about colors of
No, we're talking about you have memories here and there to the beginning of your fucking origins, no doubt. No doubt.
No.
And that's what people are having a hard time assimilating right now in this simulation is like you're getting fucking DNA remembrance from your fucking origins, from the beginning of the tree of life. Like, understand those spheres and those paths to the Sephiroth, because that is the most important thing. That is like the most precious piece of ancient knowledge we have to tap into the earliest understandings of DNA and the paths of the amino acids. Like, for that matter, like, don't even get me started on gene keys right now. But it's amazing.
And let me preface also that the information that we're talking about comes from a book called the Zohar, and there is a story that is connected to that. It is called Kabbalah. So those are the two separate things, although coming from the same ideology. One is the story of how it was created, and through that story, it also tells you many of the doctrines of the Zohar. The Zohar was written supposedly, and I say supposedly only because we can't prove, but this is the story. Three people in a cave. It was two men, and one of the men's son lived in a cave for 13 years, eating off of a small cherub tree or some sort, with once a week a fig would appear off of this tree, and they would all share it. And over 13 years, with no paper, with absolutely nothing, they memorized all this information, and lo and behold,
figs are very.
If you break it down and you start to look at what these people are talking about on real levels, where you can, because it's so out there, it's so fourth and fifth level dimensional thinking, trying to be brought down to a third dimensional mentality, that it is absolutely mind-boggling, one. And two, if you haven't taken even just the smallest minute amount of information of the first layers of this stuff that we're talking about, to jump into the Zohar, to jump into Kabbalah, Oh my God.
Well, if you think about the stories of Babylon and how we all spoke the same universal language, we all understood the same things, and then the tower fell, and then bam, everybody was separate. But we've looked at all these modalities, we felt through all of them throughout the journey, you know, like we've dived into Buddhism. We've literally walked with the gods of the Vedic scripts. We walked with the gods of ancient Egypt. We walked with the gods of Greece. You know, we have tapped into the ancient histories of the Yeshua line. You know, like we have tapped into these aspects of the Kabbalah, which are really important texts. But if we think about it, like before some time, you know, before the Ptolemaic dynasty, there was a place, you know, in northern Egypt where all of the greatest scholars of the world in those ancient times brought all of these informations together in the same place. And that's what made it amazing. Egypt was thriving at this point in time because you had all aspects of the system coming together at one place. And you would consider, like, if we think about it, Egypt really was the Babylon aspect. Like Babylon fell, you know, like how, you know, like all of those countries and all of those areas between the northern hemisphere of Africa and all of the great Asian countries, you know, between India, Asia, Asia Minor.
Yeah, it was the New York of its time, you know.
Everything in the Fertile Crescent, it was all one kingdom
Mm-hmm.
at one great time.
Mm.
And the reason why we're so confused is, like, at one time we had all this information together in one space, and it was utilized in unity and function. And so this is why it was a great loss when, during the times of Egypt, Cleopatra and the battle between her and Octavian, burning down the library in Egypt, held all of those informations, held all of that knowledge together, where all of the scholars came together. And even Yeshua in his time was able to travel there once and see all of this happening. And this is where he really got to soak in all of the teachings and then began to go out into the world and all throughout that area.
Right.
And
let me tie these all together really quickly, because I wanna be able to have everybody kind of, once again, you know, you go off, but I wanna kind of explain a couple things here. And I'm so happy for this thing that's coming out soon, because when you see what I have created with this guy in the 6, 7, 8 hour thing that we're about to do and finish, it's going to just mind blow the world. But at one point he's like, is it just a fight against good and evil? And I give him the answer. I was like, there's no good and evil, man. It's either it works or it doesn't work. But to answer your question, it's not a fight between two things. It's a fight between 4 things. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, it's really simple. Like, one of them is the physical world, right? The other one is, and that physical world does have a quote-unquote good and evil aspect to it. And the other one is a spiritual world that also has a good and evil to it, right? And so here's a real tricky, like, thought process for you. What if this evil physical person, I'm trying to think of somebody really evil that's not super evil, but super evil. No, not the Knack. That's just, you know, lineage, and that doesn't really matter anymore. They don't even really count that much. What's the gangster's name from the 1930s? He was super evil. Al Capone. Al Capone, super evil, right? But maybe, I'm not saying real big maybes here, his evil nature gave him a place of positivity. Right? Don't ask me how or why or what happened, and I can give a story. I can actually give a better story than the Al Capone, and I'm going to change it up, and it goes like this. And it's, once again, please forgive folks that I throw these out there. It's the best stories that I have, so I'm going to give it to you from another Jewish perspective. There's supposedly a very famous rabbi, and he's famous because of what he does at the end of the story. But through this life of his, he was a scholar of, call it Torah and Talmud and Gemara and all these call it the compendium of the Jewish knowledge, right? Both from the written and oral tradition of Judaism, right? So this guy is known for being this character who liked to visit the women of the night, and he went around. He's very wealthy, and he went around the world visiting the women of the night. And he goes and he finds the most beautiful woman, the most expensive of all the women he could find. And he goes to have intercourse with her. And during this moment, and I'm not sure which way it goes, whether she flatulates or whether there's these strings that Jewish men wear. It's an undergarment shirt that has a cut on both sides, and then at the end of this, of each one of the cuts, there are these strings. These strings are tied in a manner that represent a certain amount of numbers, and those numbers in the end are supposed to once again go to this idea of the name of God. And it happens in 4 different parts of the body so that it represents that you are always protected at the north, south, east, and west of where you are ideology. And then the next point, just to real quick throw off the idea of the thing on the head, what's called a kippot, or a Kippot, or a yamulaka, which is called a yarmulke. Those are placed on the top of the head to represent that something is always above you, not that something's looking down on you, right? It's more of a representation of respect and admiration.
It's like a barrier between as above, so below.
Respect and admiration for the gift of being a Jew. Also, it's also in the oral tradition. So, for those who are Orthodox, they do it because they are trying to be the best at the rules that were brought down for thousands of years to the best of their ability. No man, no woman can follow the 613 mitzvot. Why? Because some are for men, some are for women, some are for special holidays, some are only for Shabbos. So you can't, there's only so many that you can do per day, man or woman, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into the details. Go look them up yourself. But going back to the Kabbalah and this idea of the understanding of it, I don't know if you know this. Did you know that the line that goes straight down and then the 2 dots that go back and forth? Did you know that that's also the representation for the medical, the line upwards with the straight? Now, here's the representation behind that, and why there's snakes, and why there is an arrow. Here, it's really sick. The arrow represents. Sorry,
the rod represents your DNA. So that was the way that they could draw it, and the way that they could see it, because it looks like a snake. They were actually seeing inside the Merkaba at the inner anatomy. So that's how that they were in symbolism able to depict this. Like your rod is the line of energy that runs from below your feet to above your head. So earth chakra, the earth star chakra underneath your feet, and then the soul star chakra above your head. So what they would depict the DNA helix as, this is why they were drawing it out to the two serpents coming up in the helix pattern. But if you also stand in a river with your back against the current and the current is flowing off of your body, you will again see another helix pattern in the water just directly in front of you. So this is the way that the ancient Hebrew people were able to actually describe the omniscience of your DNA and what it is supposed to do. And in the Sephiroth aspects, where the sphere, they're talking about the realm of harmonics and how that actually flows through your mitochondria and how we actually function on a system of sound. So it's actually pretty fucking genius if you ask me. You know what I mean?
So I didn't know a lot of what you just told me, and you just kind of like, oh man, like you told me went so much further than I was gonna go.
It's so cool. So
listen to this. In Judaism, there's this thing called the tzaddikim. And the tzaddikim is the quote unquote perfect person. I don't know, is there a background noise? That's weird. I'm getting like a weird.
It kind of sounds like a.
Yeah, weird. Okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever. The representation that was given to me is this. The line that goes straight up is the line of a tzaddikim, a man who never makes a mistake, never says the wrong word, never makes anybody feel bad around him, is the quote-unquote perfect human that is straight path to the enlightened. What they try to do with the Dalai Lama. Right? The Dalai Lama's path, literally chosen at 8 years old, before you're even a man, because at 10 and 13, that's around the time that your brain actually gets a set level of who you are. And at that point, they are trying to just go, hey, dude, straight path, bro, straight path. Let us teach you how to go straight path, you know? Because it's not easy. And then the realm of the snakes is the realm of the life taker. And to string this back just a bit further, I'll do my thing about the water and the 40 people that we were talking about earlier. And it goes something like this. I had a really, really awesome ayahuasca ceremony in which I was shown a flat ocean. And on this flat ocean, a spotlight appeared. There was a perfect circle upon the water. And as this perfect circle would come across, all these little hands would start to reach up, and one would be like, me, pick me. Not in fear, not like, no, but like straight the opposite, but like, yo, please, oh, me, you know? And at random, one would get picked up and placed on the shoreline of life, right? And so there's 4 types of people, or 4 types, let's call it, occasions in your life. I don't want to say that any one of these are a certain type of people, because all people have the room, the willingness to grow, and the need to grow while they're here. So, but when you first get here, you are placed on this shoreline of life where the waves are constantly crashing upon you. And this is birth. This is the first 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of life where you have no control over yourself. If you don't have a family, you're pretty much dead. If you're left in the woods, bye-bye. So, you know, and then at one point, you have this ability to climb to the beach and play with wet sand and start to create these sand castles, these time expending efforts in which you build something, and yes, it's good to build, and yes, it's good to create, and yes, it's good to make things, but it's not good to be a fanatic about the things that you create, and it's also not good to be a fanatic to stop at level 2. Moving on. Level 3. Level
That's the
3.
fucking vanity, man.
Say that all again for me.
Oh, I said that's the paradox of vanity. It's a motherfucker.
You know, the 7 deadly sins live on the beach, you know what I'm saying? So, the third is the one who sees that the beach is not the only thing that's there, and that there's something beyond the beach, and we call that maybe the forest, or we call that whatever. It's right there, and it's dark, and it's weird, and it's not safe because I can't see in it, and somebody, or even maybe a group of people are willing to venture together or even by themselves to go in there, and when they're there, they come across new things: the flora, the fauna, the animals, the wood. They see lightning bolt, they see fire, they come near it, they're like, well, that's warmth. Then they bring that warmth back to the beach. They bring light, they bring new knowledge, they start to make trips back and forth from the beach to the people on the beach. And some of those people on the beach become spoiled. Some, like I said, the 7 deadly sins live on the beach. And so in that place that we go into, and even on the beach itself, we are destructive in our creation. In all that we do, in all that we make, first we must destroy or use the natural flora fauna destruction to then mash together to create something. Call it art, call it architecture, call it engineering, whatever, right? And so what I think I'm trying to get at there is that we are here to destroy, to create inspiration, and to go like really far into it, where we were a moment ago talking about AI and all that stuff, right? Which we were getting to through spells and what do spells really mean, and they are a set of words that, when put together in the right way, manipulate someone else.
To the universe. You can call it affirmation. You can call it whatever you want, but it's still the same and one and the same. You are the conscious creator through the activation of the vibration of the sound and the rhythm of your harmonics, which means your throat chakra.
Right.
Your throat chakra is your harmonics system. We function in that spiritual way, period. I could explain that, but I'm not going to do that today just because I don't want to take up too much time. Just explaining.
You take as much as you want, Brandi. We can be here for as many hours as you want. I don't care. But what I was gonna say when you said the throat chakra thing, and it's really funny, and you can look this up. Have you ever noticed that singers can become actors, but it's very rare for somebody who is an actor first to try and become a singer? And I've come to understand the reason why is because actors aren't real. And we know that inherently actors aren't real. But singers come from a place that we cannot understand, but it knows that when we and the people hear it, they literally resonate with the vibration that you created, right? Whereas, oh, someone says the signal sucks bad. Oh, that's not good. Hold on. I knew we were having issues. I said it earlier. I'm gonna move over here. Hopefully the signal gets better. And if not, you know what? Hold on. Let me move all together. We're gonna get super close to where we need to be so we can get a good signal. Hold on. Because that sucks. I said it earlier. And I wasn't sure if it was your signal or my signal, but I feel like I was really close to the Wi-Fi.
I'm not really sure. Give me 1 second.
All right, like I'm super like right on the Wi-Fi signal right now, so it might get better any second. He's like, subtitles, please. I don't know how to turn on subtitles, man. Is it your signal?
Your reply is more like, I don't know. Subtitles?
Yeah, I think it's your signal for sure, because it's definitely not mine.
Oh, man. I don't know what the fuck's been going on.
Turn off your cell phone and only use your Wi-Fi. Try that approach. Uh-oh. Well, we lost her, folks. So, man, what a deep, awesome. Oh, there she is. She's back. Are you back with us? Hey, listen. I don't know. Yeah, it's still a little. Yeah. That's okay. Are you there? Can you hear me?
But for the last month or so, I don't. Back. I'm back.
You're totally.
Can you hear me?
You're totally back. Hold on. Hold on. Nope. Yes. Yes. 100% you're back. You're absolutely no noise. Everything's beautiful now. Yeah, it was your side. Okay, so let's start over.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry.
It's all good. Where were we? Where was the last part we were at? What were you saying?
Oh, I lost my train of thought. I don't even remember.
Well, anyways, I you know,
Talking about man, okay, never mind. I thought I had it.
wow, we've gone everywhere is what it was. We've been all over the map. Throat chakra is what Joe said.
Oh, yeah.
He said, oh, right. And we were talking about the sound and how I just threw in that if you ever look it up in history, you'll see that actors can become, that singers have become actors, but actors that are known for being actors first, rarely, I think there's only 3 or 4 that you can find that become singers, and their careers never ever really do that well. The only one that I can say that has like totally broken that mold is the lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars.
Oh, Jared Leto, for sure.
Because Jared Leto was an actor first and then became a singer. But that's like, once again, super rare. If you try and find somebody else, you'll look, I believe the other person that tried to do it was Eddie Murphy. And I believe the other person that tried to do it was, what's his name? He plays Iron Man.
Kevin Bacon. They're all known musicians behind raps.
Yeah, but they never become
don't
famous.
know about them.
Jada
Pinkett.
Yeah, Jamie. Yes, he said Jamie Foxx is another singer.
Jamie Foxx.
But Jamie Foxx was a singer before he was an actor.
Right, but nobody would have known that until he actually did the movie Ray. Like, you would have not known that he had such a beautiful, angelic voice until he did that movie and did the song Gold Digger with Kanye West.
Right. Yeah, but once again, super rarity. If you look for how many actors have become singers, I mean, it's like sing. Elvis, Justin Timberlake. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And once again, I believe.
And I hate to say it, but Justin Timberlake is a better singer than an actor. Sorry, bro.
No, I'm going to disagree because I like the movie Timer, the one with the thing on the. Oh, you have to watch it. It's so good. Sci-fi thriller about a guy who, about a future where you're given only time, a certain amount of time, and it's like a DNA encoded thing on you.
Ooh.
And you have to earn time by going to work. And you can spend your time by going up to things and like touching people. And if you want to exchange time, you can shake each other's hand. And until the other person stops, you can let go. And then that person gets your time or you get their time. And then there's people who actually, it's a great movie. Watch it. It's so good. And he does a great job in it. It's a super.
You know what's crazy how disclosure for information actually comes out in movies? Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Speaking of a movie that came out in 1998, which was with Will Smith, and this movie is I forgot the name of it, but Will Smith gets tied up in some weird thing, and they start talking about how the NSA's following you and how after 9/11 the Patriot Act. I mean, they go full on in this movie, and how the guy lives inside of a Faraday cage. I mean, it's a really good movie. Look it up. I forgot the name. It's with Gene Hackman and Will Smith. And I maybe called No, it's not Patriot Games, is it? It might be called Patriot Games. I don't want to be that wrong or right. Gene Hackman, Will Smith movie. You'll find it.
I'm just going to say this one thing for anybody watching. Pay attention to the disclosure that you're watching on TV and what you think is fictional. Okay, there's messages streaming through these creations and movie reels and TV shows. Just use your discernment and throw the rest that don't resonate away. But pay attention because we're getting a lot of disclosure through art and creation.
I feel like Joe Rogan right now, where I'm like, hey, Jamie, find that clip. And I'm like, I have no Jamie.
Hold on.
So the story was that in the movie, Gene Hackman says to the Will Smith character, "Hey man, don't ever believe what they have in the newspaper. It's actually." He says, "Oh, like man found on the side of the da-da-da-da," and the night before, Gene Hackman was the guy who had to kill that guy during the movie or something, and then he shows him the newspaper to prove him the point. And then in the newspaper it says, "Man has industrial accident on the pier," or something like that. And he's like, "Oh my God," like, "Holy crap, you're right." The news does lie to me kind of concept. Finally figures it out. Can you hear me?
I'm struggling. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is what happens as soon as somebody calls you.
It ruins everything. Like, you ruins it. All I can hear is Gollum saying, "You ruins it." No.
Yeah, it switches your microphone from the regular speaker to the earphone, and you can't switch it back. It sucks. I did a whole interview like this yesterday for like an hour where I'm like, I'm like an old man, I can't hear you. So it sucks.
Right.
But
well, I am soon because of this phone call. I have to cut it short because that's actually another session
So look, let's
But
do this. Now that you're talking about another session and you're about to go to work and you're about to go do your thing, let's end cap this entire awesome interview / potty / whatever you want to call this thing that I've been doing. Brandi, who are you? What do you do? Where can people find you? And how can they hire you? Or how can they maybe have a session with you? Learn about their charts and all those things? Throw it all out there.
well, I've really had over the last couple of years, I've had a hard time with labels. So I either like to call myself an alchemist, a magician, but not the kind of magician that Paul is. I'm an ominous scientist, is what I like to call, like, I don't know if you want to call it. This is what I do: omniscience. Okay, if you don't know what omniscience is, look it up. It's the alchemy of being able to be a multi-dimensional being and be able to be in the awareness of that. But I help other people come into their own divine empowerment. I work very closely with Ra Uru Hu's human design system, as well as Richard Rudd's Gene Keys system. So I assist people in being able to literally take a good gander at your hologenetic profile, which is your Gene Keys profile. Your human design profile actually tells me what your aura type is. It combines your astrology, your I Ching, your Vedic aspects from tropical to Vedic astrology, and it takes some aspects of the Kabbalistic origins of the Zohar, and it puts all of that in to a chart that I can actually pull up your aura type, how you respond to things. I can look at your incarnation cross and tell you exactly what you're doing here. Your life's work, the culmination of your evolution, what attracts you. I can look into your Gene Keys and see where you're battling in the shadow realm, where your gifts lie, and the supernatural essence of your being. So I can take all of these things and I can actually look at your entire blueprint. We always say, well, I wish God had given me a handbook to this life. Well, in 1986, there was a star that exsanguinated itself. It came to the end of its billions of years lifespan, and its consciousness actually streamed to Earth, and that is actually why and how we have the system that allows us to now look at human design. So this consciousness has only been on Earth for about 36 years, but some of us were, probably at that time, I was 4 years old, so actually I was on Earth at that time. So along with so many other beings like Ra Uru, we actually were able to receive this consciousness. So I believe that is why I'm one of the channels that actually can help a person be able to look at their own blueprint and find their own self-actualization and empowerment through that system. And it literally kills all of the new age spirituality that can get you lost in the sauce on your journey. It takes you directly to yourself so that there is no way you could really get lost at this point. If you go through a human design or a Gene Keys session with me, you're actually getting the best tool to know yourself that there is on this planet. And I say that with all confidence and conviction that this is universal truth.
When you do like a Gene Key thing, are you asking somebody to actually do like an actual DNA swab kit so that you
can actually no, I don't need all of that unorthodox shit. I don't need to unnecessarily poke you with a needle, swab your DNA. I can actually look at the time of your birth and where you were born, and be able to pull all of that information up without anybody having to turn over their DNA to ancestraltrees.com or whatever the fuck, like a lot of people are actually afraid to turn over their DNA because we're told in magical correspondences when you start messing with magic that it's a bad thing to ever let someone get your hair, your blood, your DNA samples, because, well, somebody could turn that on you through your DNA. It's kind of like why we carry a lot of karmic baggage through the DNA structure.
Did you know that
But we can
23andMe?
go into that another day. But to get more specific is I can actually look at your genetic profile without having to prick you with a needle or go through some crazy science shit that they can't even tell you what the fuck's going on. But I can actually look at this system without hurting you or harming you, and it actually gets more accurate. Like, people are mind blown that I can go into your genetic profile and see which codon rings that are associated to that particular gene key. I can tell you what's operating in the shadows, the gifts, and the supernatural essence of that gene key, and where it plays out in humanity, and how it's also in the paradox of things, how it helps evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and why these gene keys exist, and where from the beginning of time to now, why it's important that we understand ourselves and where we function on these paths of the separo. Like, when I look at the amino acids, I could look at somebody's profile that's dealt with breast cancer, and if they have a stop codon amino acid that's meant to transform their entire genetic being through that whole experience, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you exactly what medical obstacles a person could probably go through their genetics. But I can also tell you what kind of diets that they should be on based on the food groups grouped within those amino acids. There's a reason why we ingest most of them. But for the stop codon gene keys, there is no external way to absorb an amino acid. There is no amino acid. So it's telling me that that stop codon is there to totally reprogram one's genetic DNA pattern, which is what I've been seeing in some of these beautiful people that I've been working with. You know, I can actually tell them what foods to put in their bodies to fight this kind of cancer, where it's at in the body, what organs that this energy is really affecting, and how you can work with your body and not against your body, because thoughts become things. And the more that we harbor the aspects of the shadow within our own soul, these are the kind of energies like hatred, disdain, contempt, all these things that we might feel in the range of emotions. The paradox of things is, while we're trying to go through these trials and tribulations, we don't know that energetically we're harboring this kind of energy of fear and all of these other things that would actually create cancerous cells, because our body is telling ourselves one thing, but the psychological aspect of it is really affecting the way that the mitochondria works with you and not against you. So you're your own worst enemy if you're not able to truly take a deep dive into yourself, which this system is something that we didn't have 34 years ago. And everybody in the medical, in the scientific realm, they're still grasping at straws, trying to figure out what DNA is all about, and genetics and history and archaeology and blah, blah, blah. You know, anthropology can tell us all that kinds of things. But this system, actually sitting here looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, there's a bridge, there's a bridge, there's a gap. Oh my God, I can now connect these two things together, and it's freaking amazing. But the more that I'm starting to share this system and the modality that I use, and the more people are coming online, it's like they're coming out of that inverted aspect of magic or belief to all of these things. You know, like, you can take the tools around us, you know, that are true, applied. We can use this. Okay, thoughts become things, matter becomes form. This is amazing. We're manifesting in a flow that is, you know, free flowing. And so the more that people work with me, the less they need those tools, the less they need those archetypes like gods and goddesses, angels, demons, this and that. The more that people actually return to themselves. They know their aura types, they know how to respond, they actually know how to channel their own personal energy, connecting directly to source, releasing the worries and the things that would take you away from the God within you that exists inside you and all around. So it's almost like the more that you dive into your human design, the more that you understand about your gene keys, which tie directly into your incarnation cross and why you're here, why you incarnated, what your life's work is, and how you culminate the pearl of your wisdom through all of the experiences from childhood, the 3 phases that you go through in childhood of downloading, integration, some of those things that you're downloading and absorbing like a little bitty sponge. You know, some of those things are good for you, some of them are bad for you. And as we grow up, we kind of lose sight of our own personal divine nature. We're now conforming to society. We're forgetting who we are. We're losing touch with that sense of supernatural essence that flows in our veins. You know, we're starting to tell ourselves weird stories like, this is who I am because this is what this person said and this is what society told me to be. You're kind of breaking down all the walls. You're saying, fuck society, fuck religion, fuck all of these things and the dogma of distortions. We're removing the inversions. I'm getting to know myself. I know myself. And this is what you're going to be able to say at the end of the day. I know myself better than anybody. And you could say that all day long throughout your childhood and like, I wish these people would shut up. I know me. They don't know me. You know, but at this point, the more you actually really get to know yourself, the less angry you are about those kind of constructs. You're kind of looking at them like, you think you know me, haha, you know, and it's laughable. You're smiling. You're no longer angry about it. You're in a state of joy and bliss that you've never experienced before. And this is not real ignorance is bliss kind of bliss. This is, oh my God, my eyes are so awake. My heart is so awake. This is blissful. This is peaceful. This is serenity to me. And this part of getting to know myself was fucking worth it. No doubt. It was the most worthy thing I could have ever done for myself. And honestly, it's crazy because that's how I feel, you know, and that's how other people are starting to feel the more that I get to share it with them. And it's so amazing.
I got to read you a couple of these because I don't know if you've read these because these have been really good. Joe's been watching pretty much the whole time, and he says, her background is science. It's just not conventional form of science or as society deems it. In its non-conventional science, not to put her in a box or label her, but she's basically a shaman. Big love, sister. And then he comes back again just moments ago and he goes, I love how smart she is. She speaks so gracefully. So mad love obviously being sent to you. I want everybody who comes here and sees this, I don't want them to be like, she's coming from some kind of crazy scoopity poopy poop land, because it's not. There's a very good documentary that just came out recently. It's on YouTube. It's called The C Word, and it's based on cancer. And there is a absolute cure for cancer. And it's the simplest answer in the world, okay? And I'm going to tell you what the 4 things are.
Guarantee you're about to take the words right out of my mouth. I'm not even going to.
Stop eating anything with soy. Period. Stop eating anything that's a boxed product that has soy in it. Stop eating carbs. No breads. Bad bread. Go out and work out at least 15 minutes a day. Get sun. It's literally those 4 things. When you watch the documentary, it's those 4 things that will literally reduce your amount of ability to have cancer in your life by 40 to 70%.
I can give you 3 more things, and I call it the Holy Trinity.
Go ahead.
Those are the things that you can do physically.
Sugars, I forgot.
But I got the Holy Trinity over here.
Give it to me. Give it to me. What is it?
The bio-soul integration, human design, and getting to know your hologenetic profile.
Yeah.
Those are my holy trinities.
Yeah, but I mean,
That
when you
will
say
help
those-
you eliminate cancer
Brandi,
from within, so
stop it.
without.
When you say those things to anybody who's watching, they do not know what that means, and for you to get into it is like this really long kind of explanation. So, and I
To
want
make it simple, it's like the system that I'm using is the Holy Trinity of actually returning to the self without all of the extra. So like when I say returning to the self, I mean we're healing cancer over here. We're healing whatever ailment that is like plaguing the body as any form of pestilence, mind, body, soul. And when I say pestilence, I mean sickness. So when I talk about disease, when the mind is not at ease, this is what opens the cataclysmic doorway to allow disease to set inside the cells of the body. This is where your DNA starts listening to those programmings, because you're sitting here telling your DNA that there's sickness, that there's pestilence, that there's all of this contempt for the things that you're feeling, your hatred, you're angry, you're sad, and you're grieving to no end, to the point where it's actually toxic. You're becoming anal retentive. You're in a state of control. You want to control everything. But the simple Trinity is knowing yourself and releasing all of those extra programmings that don't belong anymore, and you're returning to the center. And like we talked about the rod and the staff earlier of the caucus,
yeah,
right? The center line being that center line of energy that goes from underneath your feet and it goes in a straight line all the way above your head, right? Sitting in lotus pose and just breathing in and exhaling, returning to your heart space center, and then like just focusing on yourself without all the external worry. Like, what is this person in the world doing? What is the whole entire world up to? It doesn't matter anymore, because now your focus is more centralized. Your brain is less scattered. You're returning to yourself, returning to your center. You're remembering that the kingdom of heaven is inside you and all around you. And all you have to do is talk to your blood, talk to your DNA, tell it what to do, activate it like you're giving a computer a command, and you're telling that program to run in response to what you want it to do. And so it's going to carry out that command, and it's going to do what you want it to do until it comes to a stop codon. And then at that point in time, your stop codon in the computer or in your own internal system may be telling you, okay, something needs to change. We need to shift the vibration, or we need to recalibrate the DNA altogether because the code is wrong or inverted, or but we can fix it because you can actually give it the command to do what you tell it to do. So if you're telling yourself that there's sickness in your body, well, by all means, you're going to manifest that the more you talk about it. It's not about whether you think about it, because you can have a thought, you can have 5,000 thoughts in 60 seconds. You can have 5,000 different thoughts. One of them is going to begin codon, initiate sequence. And then within 5 minutes, that initiation sequence may come to a complete and utter demise, because that thought has now come to a stop codon. It's no longer serving. You can kick it out. But the minute you start speaking upon things and you start telling yourself this or that, you start telling yourself these stories, you start formulating these idealisms out of fear, etc., all of those things through the shadow body within your soul are going to now resonate in the lower microcosms. So in a way, you have to become consciously aware of being able to mediate and say, nope. Okay, that which goes up really high must come down. That is Murphy's law. That which goes up must come down. So if you go through a real crazy spiritual ascension and you're like going through the roof and you're like, oh my God, I'm channeling so hard, I can't stop. Look at all this divine shit coming through me. And then you're like, oh my God, like 2 days later, you're like down and out in the microcosms. And you wonder why you just went so high and then all of a sudden you just hit rock bottom. Well, we need to learn how to navigate those energy systems. It's how our aura types function. It's the way we respond. Is what I'm doing in alignment with me? Well, no, for me, I'm a sacral channel. So if it's not in alignment with me, there's going to be utter chaos in my world, in this little situation. Okay, well, why is there so much chaos? And my sacral chakra is sitting there screaming at me going, Brandi, for one thing, whatever you're trying to do right now, it's chaos because you're not in alignment with this situation, or this situation actually, in fact, is not in alignment with you. So change trajectory. This is a fuck no. And so you've got to listen to that response. Are you a generator? Are you a generating manifester? Because if you're a manifesting generator, then you have the ability to funnel your own energy. You need less transpersonal experiences in the world. And most often people are going to come to you like you're the one that's got all the answers.
Yep.
But if you're a projector, that means that you have a different role entirely. You're not here to generate energy to the masses. You're not here to generate energy to the manifestors. You're actually here to be a projecting way shower, because now you're the one that's actually writing the new movie script for humanity. You're the director of your hologenetic field. So whoever the hell is in your soul monad, however large your projection field is, this means that you play a role here as this projector. So you're projecting a new wave of teaching, a new wave of understanding. You're the teacher in a sense if you're a projector. And if you're a reflector, well, as reflectors, there aren't many reflectors in the world, and what they are is pure cognitive channels that cannot be energetically fucked with. That means that no outside source can come into a reflector's auric field and push or project or anything. Like a reflector can see everything and feel everything, and then they're actually the ones responsible for compartmentalizing all of this energy on the planetary network. So everybody has a role, and every person by human design is completely and utterly uniquely different, regardless of how many aspects we may share with each other. So I find that absolutely amazing. It kind of ties in a lot of the gaps, you know, from what we could talk about ourselves, or how we can generate different ideas or theories about blood, DNA, how we're all connected, the tree of life, etc., etc. It kind of it bridges the gaps for all of that, so that we're not actually not like walking on the spiral anymore. Like, we're kind of back on the spiral. We're not like in a state of relative stagnance.
Right.
Now we're actually able to move forward and give something to humanity that is not going to keep them down in the microcosms. They're now streaming this new consciousness that we're able to share with one another and release all of the old inverted constructs of what would have kept us in an illusionary state of dogma when it comes to spiritual evolution and how we're actually evolving and ascending. And when I say evolving, that's more actually, you know, in truth, what we're really doing, because the only
so that's
thing
my question for
that
you.
our binary codes have the message to do, period. There is no other thought, theory, or whatever to speculate. Literally, the only thing that we will always do by genetics is evolve, period.
So my question for you is becoming transhuman, in the sense that we adapt technology into our body and we start becoming computers / half humans, is that part of the evolution?
In a way, if you look at it from the beginning of time, we've always been one form of actual biotechnology. So if you actually say that you're not a form of biotechnology, you kind of be lying to yourself. Now, whether you look at yourself as AI or not, now when you start integrating bionic parts, which is what we've actually been over the last decade, are really trying to push into pharmaceutical medicines of being able to have an artificial heart without having to, you know, like organ hunt for body parts. You know, people have been developing like bionic body parts.
Sure, sure.
But that's like naturally, just like anything else, a choice. But are you deviating away from the actual codon ring of life and death? Are you trying to cheat death? I mean, how do you really look at infinity, or how do you really look at being immortal?
I mean, that's the question.
That's where we're really getting into those questions of our mortality.
Yeah, so that's the next question, right? So if we go along with this idea that we're made in the image of the Creator itself is not a human being. It is a conscious form of light that creates. So then isn't it that if I make a computer that then thinks for itself, I have now made something in the image of myself, and now if I can make that thing smarter than me to where it understands all of the things that you're talking about, both on the physical, spiritual plane, as we expressed, and is able to coalesce all these things, and then somehow or another is able to grab your energy, light, field, thing, connection, source, and connect to it. Am I already living in a simulation, or is that just a recreation of the simulation? And I'm going to add one more. If we're in a multiverse, isn't that just the multiverse that we're living within, and we can't really change the snowball of technology that is already created?
Well, like I always like to say, it's like even if we think that we're stepping into an unknown territory, most oftentimes is what my inner guide always reminds me. And my inner guide, when I refer to my inner guide, is myself, because like I'll always, like in a smart ass way, remind myself that we've already done this. We've already been here. We've already done that. We've already I mean, if you think in constructs of like having connections to other beings from other dimensions, like being able to channel energies of the fifth kind, you know, like a lot of those guides, and you know, like especially like I'll just specify and tell you, like Lyrans. The Lyran race at one point went through this already. They went through the bionic stages where, you know, like everything become, you know, like artificial technology, or even artificial technology like robots and things, like developing their own sense of actual consciousness.
Right.
So like there's speculation that at a time in Lyran history, these beings actually had to fight for their own rights to exist. So here again, like you'd see like thousands and thousands of years later, like time and evolution, all of these things have happened. But, you know, a lot of reasons why we're still revisiting this is because people have that DNA memory.
Right.
And it's why it's not so far-fetched. And it's kind of why I can actually say, like, okay, on a timeline sense, bringing those past timelines back into this timeline now, this is why all of these people are either fearing it or trying to figure it out, because it's kind of like you already have this innate sense of knowing, like, we've already been here, done that, guys.
Yep.
What are we doing?
So this,
you know,
goes
anywhere from stem cells to cloning and all of those other things, we've already been here. And this is how we actually got here, because other beings were experimenting with DNA and genetics.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's my question.
So it's like we've already been here and done this.
So that's my question. Is it a simulation? And you and I are just simulations living our simulation within the simulation.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
So like your reality may be entirely different from mine.
Right.
In the sense of, you know, if you're experiencing, you know, the world of technology, like rubbing elbows with Elon Musk and, you know, like seeing the new developments, you know, because that's actually going to be the reality that you're going to be experiencing. And it's kind of like David Bowie once said when the internet first came out, he was like, this is either going to be a really catastrophic thing for humanity, or it's going to be extremely brilliant.
Yep.
And
Yep.
And it's kind of like Prince once said, you know, do the internet, but don't let the internet do you. Do the technology, but don't let the technology do you. But I think, like I said, we've already done this at some point in history, whether we were living in another parallel universe or whether we were living in this fucking universe. We've already been there, done that. We already know the possible outcomes in all of the different ways that, you know, it could go in 64 different ways for all we know.
Right.
But we've already known that. We've already been there, done this. We have the memories, we have the innate knowledge, and we can feel it, speak it, and breathe it if that's what we're doing. But if we're like sitting here, you know, like projecting like a different kind of new world construct where, you know, people actually, you know, are learning to actually coexist with AI technology, which is what a lot of us on the, you know, like if you're thinking from a higher state of consciousness, we're like, oh, you know what? We can use technology. We're not going to allow technology to use us, but we can coexist with this, and we can actually make beautiful, brilliant things. But then there's where the aspect of vanity gets our ass. We can create beautiful things, but we also create beautiful things that come to an end also. And eventually, throughout human design, over the next several hundreds of years, you'll see a new kind of genetic human profile begin to be born. More projectors and more reflectors will start to be born. So there will be less of the slaving within humanity. And eventually, you know, like we were just going over the 12th gene key the other day, where we're talking about how vanity actually turns into a sense of purity when you can actually go into like a state of like a nihilist way of thinking, when you're releasing actually all of your fear that you would have over sickness, illness, death, anything that you could come to pass on the experience. Eventually what you're going to do is you're going to lay down the vain thoughts of, man, do I really have to do all this stuff to be perfect? Do I really have to go through all these different things to be purified beings? At the end of the day, no, you really don't. You don't have to become vegan to be a beautiful fucking divine channel. You don't have to eat this and, you know, do away with that. It's really about a choice. Are you answering the clarion call to your soul and what you actually came here to do? Because when you're tapping into your sacrum and your sacral energies, you feel the sacredness of why you're here. You deeply already know without anybody having to tell you why you're here and what you came here to do. Right. So we find ourselves asking that question like 1,000 times over. Why am I here? Why did I come? When you really sit with your heart space, you know why. You will. The answer is almost immediate. You know why.
Yeah, I was saying that recently. I think I said this on my last pod that, you know, when I went through this 5-day journey of like mushrooms, and on the first day I took so much. It was so heavy. But I took away everything that I was. Like, I took away the magic me and the singer me and the this of me and the manipulation part of me and the child 8-year-old and the 15-year-old and the this, that, and the other, and and I was left with like nothing but me holding the torch of my ancestry, right? And it was this beautiful message of like, look at what all these other people have had to endure for you to get to exist. And it's not like a weight, right? It's not like, oh, it's so heavy because they were.
That's a crazy synchronicity, because I literally got the same message just this last week. It was like so beautiful.
Yeah, and it was just like,
it was so beautiful.
Yeah, it was just like, it's not, it's like you, what it is like, it's more like you have this awesome responsibility to be the black sheep of your generational bullshit
I'm loving it.
You have
I used to hate it. Like, oh my God, why did I come here to clean all this fucking karma? Like, man, I'm looking at my ancestors, I'm hearing them in my head. I'm like, don't you even talk to me. I'm not here to clean up your mess. I'm not here to do anything for you, okay? And they're like, I'm grateful, little.
Right, but it's not that I think it's quite the opposite. I think that they're not. It's not like they're ungrateful. They're
Now
like
it's different.
I think
They're like, you don't have to carry our burdens because we already went through these things. We went through these things because we love you. And even though we didn't know better, we were making mistakes. Some of my ancestors were greatest monarchs of Europe. You know, I'm very connected to the Bourbon line, King Louis XVI. I even have his nose. And he's sitting here telling me, look, ma petite, you know, we went through so many things, but you don't understand the beauty of our lineage. Look at all we've been through to survive. Look at you now, ma petite. I love you.
And look at where you are. And look at how you're existing within a time.
We're talking like lineages and lineages. You and me, we're descendants
awesome.
of Jesus.
And
we're
look,
descendants
and more so than that,
of Mother Mary. We are descendants of the divine ones. We've been through to stay here. To be born here, to be reincarnated in the same bloodlines over and over and over. All of the things that we've been through for our bloodlines to exist and survive over the ages. It's phenomenal. Regardless of the mishaps, regardless of the sadness, regardless of the tragedies, regardless of the mistakes that our history made out of fear.
Yeah,
it's
and more so than that,
to be here right now.
Yeah, more so than that, the Library of Alexandria has returned.
It has.
You know, and so there's no excuse now. There is absolutely. Oh, and by the way, we were talking about Babylon. We were talking about how we all have the same language. Google is putting out something called the Babel. It's not Babel, the company, but and it's an earpiece that in real time, if somebody speaks Japanese, you hear English, and
it's automatically going to translate languages. Oh my God.
And on your phone, it will use the speaker so that when you speak in whatever language you're in, they hear Japanese.
I've been waiting for like the last 10 or 13 years, like for people to start speaking telepathy, because I'm like, I've been waiting for you.
No, I mean that's pretty.
Come talk to me.
That's pretty close.
Let's have a mind chat.
That's pretty close. I mean, if you think about it.
I can't wait. Like I'm like sitting here feeling like, you know what? Sometimes it feels like a curse, but to me, it feels more like a blessing to be a couple of 100 years more advanced than the other people around me. Sometimes I love it.
Where we are right now is absolutely. I mean, listen, we all fantasize and romanticize the past of existence. If you pop back less than 100 years, my friend, life was absolute shit compared to what I'm sitting on a stoop making a freaking phone call with my friend, videotaping it, and then putting it on YouTube just to have other people hear the stupid shit we're talking about. Oh my God. I would have gotten shot in 1892.
Man, I mean, we've come a long way since just invention. You know, the power of the Industrial Revolution was a big fucking thing. Everybody's like getting excited to create, and they're starting to learn to work with materials that they've never worked before, which a lot of those materials were fucking deadly, and we figured it out. But it's like an era of evolving. You know, like we were getting smarter. You know, like we didn't know that fucking, you know, some of the most easiest things that we find to work with to make things and create products and things, we didn't know that a lot of those things would kill you. Back in the day, they didn't know like putting borax in milk would activate a form of tuberculosis, you know, and kill like fucking millions of children and people. And, you know, and it's not the kind of consumption where they're coughing up blood and shit. This is the kind of consumption that's kind of coming out the other end, you know. and it's affecting the stomach and the intestines, you know, like nobody knew, like where's tuberculosis coming from? Ooh, you put the
Maybe
borax
it's
in the
the,
milk, and
maybe
then
it's
the
the,
milk
maybe it's
activated
the,
the tuberculosis, and then the tuberculosis made you sick.
had nothing to do with the tuberculosis, had to do with the milk.
It had nothing to do with the tuberculosis. It was the chemical of the borax and the acidic milk.
Let me tell my
Nobody
joke.
would have known.
Let me tell my
Like, oh my
joke.
God.
Let me tell my joke. I said it had nothing to do with the borax or the milk. It had to do with the milkman. Wink, wink.
Yeah. See?
All right. So
Milkman thought he was going to be smart, man, but no.
we got you,
But we
milkman.
didn't know any better, you know? But, like, here we are 100 years later. Now we fucking know better. And now we're really starting to click two and two together. Like, oh, fuck. All the mistakes that we made in the Industrial Revolution, the real revolutions of the 18th century. Like, oh, my God. Like okay, so we really know how to fix it now. Like, there's no fucking going back to, well, we used to live this way and we used to do these things, and now we're gonna have to take a stand and say, no, we fucking learned from the history, from the lessons of the past, and, you know, going forward into this new age state of invention, we're not doing these same things that we used to, just going off, like, releasing things into the public half-cocked, not knowing whether they can hurt someone, harm someone, etc., etc. We're not doing that anymore. Like, we're beyond this experimental stage of let's fuck with all of the alchemical elements on the element table and see what we can conjure up here. And we don't know if it's going to hurt human beings or not, but let's play. No, we're in a different stage of evolution now. We've already gone through all that. What's harmful, what's not. We know the difference. Now we can move forward in a different state of consciousness, which is nice.
Well, Brandi, let's do it. Let's try to end it again. Give us all your social medias, your website, all your information, so people can get in touch with you, find you, so they can talk to you, or if they want to hire you to have their whole alchemical thing done to them, so that they can have better lives. So, what is it? Give us your socials.
So you can find me on Instagram at Brandini Mojo 13 or Exotic Lotus Alchemy on Facebook, and or my original Brandi Dye personal profile. The business page is Exotic Lotus Alchemy. A lot of my services are listed there. I'm actually fixing to update my page again because I have new things to introduce, like the Bio-Soul integration, which is a recalibration of your spiritual spine, your spiritual highway. So contact me on Facebook. Let's get to know each other. Reach out. Let me know what you got going on. I'd love to just tap into people, period. You know, it doesn't have to be for a specific reason. If you just want to have a chit chat about what if you want to pick my brain, let's pick my brain. I'm happy to do things like that all the time. I just love connecting to human beings. It's a part of what I do. I am a tribal channel, so community is very important, and so yeah, I'm trying to grow the community, and I'm trying to connect other people to other people, because I know a lot of amazing people, and that's another thing that I'm good at, is connecting people to the right people. So,
right. Yeah, that was the essence of
just get plugged in with me.
Yeah, and that was the essence of why I started doing this again. And it all happened from this weekend. I don't know if I told you the story, but a lady comes up to me and she goes, "You're Paul Carpenter." And I was like, wow. You know, and I know nobody at this event. And she's like, yeah, 2 years ago, someone put me on to you, and I've been watching you ever since, and you stopped making your videos, and it made me upset. So she was the inspiration to start up again. And then I've always had really awesome, and it's happened with you, as a matter of fact. You and I have had some like stupidly amazing conversations, and then somewhere in the middle of it, we're like, we should have recorded it. And so instead, I was like, you know what, dude?
I would do this all the time.
Right? I was like, from now on, I'm going to just do these, record them, throw them on YouTube, and peace to the love if you want to remember what we were talking about. send it to a friend, and we're happy, you know. So so Brandi, thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate you being on the show. Call it a show if you'd like. Let me do my outro, and it goes something like this. My friends, if you would not mind, please go out into the world, do something nice for somebody else. And if you can't do something nice for yourself, it does start with you. Number 2, don't get caught up in all the crazy stuff in this world, because if you do, you end up crazy. And number 3, if you would not mind, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure so should Brandi. Please like, share, subscribe, send this out to somebody who wants to see it. And my friends, I love you so very much, and I will see you all on the other side.